In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to convince a landlord to let them let you use their property so you can run an Airbnb business. Now, this is one of the biggest hurdles that most property entrepreneurs face, especially in their early days, and it is something that we have to get over. But once you crack it, once you get the momentum, once you understand the language that you need to use, then you start to acquire a lot of property, which equals a lot of cash flow, and you start to build your Airbnb hosting business. Now, I remember the days when I was back there knocking on doors, picking up the phone, getting a lot of rejection, a lot of no's, but ultimately it comes down to just persistence and perfecting your script more and more and more. So, what are my top tips and how do you overcome it? Well, basically, tip number one, I'm sure you've heard it if you've even just started calling people, it's subletting. Yes, correct, it is subletting. However, it's legal subletting, and it is allowed as long as the landlord knows what you're doing, agrees that you can do it, and everything is documented in the right contracts. So it is subletting, but it can be legal subletting, and that is absolutely fine. And it should not become an objection that stops you in your tracks and prevents you from moving forward. In terms of speaking direct to landlords, this is by far the best way to get properties because you can get your message across. You can get your value across. You can really let the landlord know why we are the best tenants that they will ever have. And I seriously mean that. And that's why I got so many properties, because I passionately believe that I am the best tenant that a landlord could ever have. I sit on the other side of the fence as well. I have tenants. I know how much of a headache they can be. So the main benefits that I hone in on are around the fact that they'll not have any voids. Okay, as a company, as long as this works for us, we're going to be in the property for a long time, many years, and they will have no voids. They're going to have no tenant finder's fees because of those void periods not appearing. They're not going to have any empty periods. They're not going to need to find more tenants. Now, the majority of landlords that are quite successful will use agencies, and therefore the agency will charge them a fee, typically 1 month's rent, to place a tenant. They don't have that. So however many years you keep it for, typical average tenancy is probably around 14 to 16 months. So for every 3 years, that's 2 tenancy fees that you're going to save them. In terms of the property itself, and this is the biggest part that most people struggle to get over the line, is the trust factor. Do they believe you're going to A, pay, but B, look after their asset? Remember, they've probably saved quite hard to get this asset. They've probably put 50, 60, 70K into the property in terms of a deposit. They've done a refurb on it. They are emotionally connected to it, okay? So we need to make them feel like they can trust us that we're gonna look after the property. And yes, there's all the news of the Airbnb parties and all the problems and everything else that comes with it, but that is not what happens in the main. So basically, we need to get them to understand that we are running a hotel business here. The best phrase I've ever said and continue to use to this day is, Mr. Landlord, I appreciate your concerns. However, have you ever checked into a hotel that's been trashed? And they look at you and they say, no. I say, well, that's my business. And if I can't keep the business in the right place, if I can't deliver on the property that's advertised online, remember, day number one is when I'll take the photographs of the property, when it's looking at its best. So we need to make sure that the guest is getting that when they turn up. That means if any damage occurs in your property, I need to fix it, and I need to fix it quick because I'll have a guest coming in and that's what they're expecting. If I don't, I haven't got a business. As you can see, I have a successful business and I will go into my portfolio. I'll show them my portfolio. If you don't have a portfolio, that's fine. You don't need to do that. But if you do have one, use it. It is a closing tool. You can demonstrate how well you keep your properties. I remember back when I had about 5 or 6 units, I had a landlord who was a bit unsure. My company was new and they need to go over the line. So I give them the lockbox code to the property. I said, when you're free, it's empty on XYZ date, just go and check yourself in, lockbox is here. They went and did that. They rang me from the property and said, we cannot believe the condition of this compared to some of our tenancies. I said, well, that's what you get by having me as your tenant and I'll be here for a while. So again, we're just adding more and more value into the mix and make sure that the landlord wants us. They need us. They should be begging us to choose us as their tenants because we will make them more money. by keeping the properties in great condition, they're not going to have an end of term refurbishment. My last end of term refurbishment was £8,000. £8,000 a tenant cost me. Am I ever going to see that money off him? No. Now, we are running a business here. We have to keep the properties maintained. We've got to keep it in hotel standard. So that means when we hand the property back, if we ever do, that it's going to be in very good condition. They can literally just get a tenant straight in there, not have to do any work, and again, saving them money. As we go more and more into the value, we can talk about taxation. You know, once you understand the laws around Section 24 and finding out their tax position, there are very clever ways that you can make them make more money by saving them tax. But for now, the main focus points that you need to focus on are: the property gets cleaned every week. I guarantee you a tenant does not clean the property. Certainly doesn't clean the oven every week and the microwave and the fridge. With no voids, you're not going to have an end of term refurbishment. We are here for the long term, so there's no tenant finder's fees. There's also no ongoing management fees, typically 10% plus VAT at the minute. So the amount of money that they are saving, plus the protection on the property, it's huge. Not to mention that 9 times out of 10, we're more than likely going to upgrade the property slightly on our expense, not theirs, on our expense. We will upgrade the property, which adds value to their property, to make it a sellable proposition for our guests. That is how you penetrate with landlords. Those tips will get you over the line. Believe in yourself, believe that you're the best tenant, and landlords should be screaming to work with you by the time you've delivered your value. If you've enjoyed the video, please comment below. I will answer every single one of your questions personally. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit me up on Instagram and TikTok as well.